Hi, my name's Carrie and I joined MyDeath-MyDecision about 18 months ago following the death of my father. I was really lucky to have a good relationship with my dad. We were able to talk about a whole range of topics, including life and death and difficult decisions. I think probably the first time we directly talked about his death was when I was about 13 and I got into the car after school and he had a big brown envelope in the passenger seat and he moved it out of my way and said, "Before I put this in the back, Carrie, I want you to know that this is my will. Your mum and I were at the solicitors today." And he went on to briefly outline what was in the document, where he would keep it in the house and the name of his solicitor in case I needed it in the future. That kind of set the tone for the practical side of it. So he likewise let me know when he paid for his own funeral plan, and anytime he updated the will, he would let me know, show me where the documentation was. And on the emotional side of things, he was a little bit stiff upper lip and tended to needed a bit of a prop at that. So he would wait until there was, for example, an Ulster rugby match on TV and we each had a glass of whiskey in hand. And then he would reflect on his life, and it was during those conversations I found out that once he'd retired from his business and seen his kids reach adulthood, he became completely content at that point, that he'd set out to do certain things in life and he'd achieved most of them. He'd made his peace with the bits he hadn't. And he kept saying that he was a very lucky man, and he, by the time he was in his early 80s, he was quite open about talking about his own mortality and seemed ready to go. He just said he hoped it was quick and he would drop dead of a heart attack on the golf course one day. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen like that. When he was 86, he started having a few neurological symptoms, and he had a brain scan, and we went in as a family to see what the consultant had to say. And the consultant said, "I'm very sorry, you have a brain tumour and it's inoperable, and we think you probably have 2 good months and 2 bad months." My dad looked at the consultant and absorbed this information for a minute, and then he said, "Can't I just have the 2 good months?" And that's a question that's really, stuck with me. I think if the option had been there to book himself in 6 weeks' time and have a medically assisted death, I think he would have taken it. He regarded his life as complete, and he really didn't want the bad months at the end. I mean, who would? And he and my mum made the most of the probably 6 good weeks, I would say, that he had, where he was still able to go out and about and enjoy his food. I think they probably went to every restaurant in Belfast and didn't worry about what they were spending. So he had some good quality weeks left, and he was able to say goodbye to his friends, buy them all a last drink. They didn't know it was the last drink, but my dad knew. The bad weeks at the end, he found very, very, very difficult. There was pain medication for the headaches, but there was nothing really anyone could do about the fact that every day his horizons were getting smaller. He found being confined incredibly tough. He got embarrassed whenever he started getting his words wrong and not being able to speak properly. And he was just fed up. You could just see it in his eyes. And I remember during that time mostly feeling angry. I felt really angry that the doctors couldn't help him, and I felt really angry at politicians because they're so far behind public opinion on this issue. Most of the UK, most people say that they want this choice of a medically assisted death. It's a choice my dad wanted to have. It's a choice that I want myself in the future. I just thought we need to do something about this. And I think whenever I was able to find an organisation in the form of MDMD that is saying, let's have a change in the UK law and let's help everybody that needs it. The thing that I've noticed actually is the last few weeks of my dad's life felt like an awfully long time, And there are cases like OMIDs where people are trapped like that for years, not just weeks, that would like to have this choice, but legally can't ask for it. So it's made me think about how many people are actually affected by this, and how many people aren't really in a position to go out and campaign themselves, that need people like us to go out and do it on their behalf. So it's really given me the incentive to get more involved and to change things for the better. The other thing that it's done is I've started to reflect a lot more on my own life, and both in the sense of what I want to achieve and what my wishes would be were anything bad to happen. Part of what I've done is Compassion in Dying have an online forum called an advanced decision, and in that you can set out, in the event of, for example, unexpectedly being in a coma or in a vegetative state, you can specify whether you would like treatment or not. And although it's something that not many people my age think about, I did read an article the other day about a woman who had been in an accident, and her sister and her mother were left making all of those kinds of decisions because she wasn't there to express for herself whether she wanted any medical treatment. So I think no matter what age you are, it's really worth having a look at this document. There's a link to it just below this video, and do check it out. And you don't have to complete it all in one go. You can save it and go back to it again later. But I've started to do things like that, just set my own affairs in order, talk to my partner about what's important. And I find that actually the more I talk about life and death issues, the better sense of perspective I have of what I want to do in the years that I have to enjoy in the meantime. So I think it's a really healthy thing to do, actually. And I really encourage you to try. And when you're talking to a loved one, don't think of it as like a big set piece conversation. Just think of it as like a series of conversations over time where you're trusting and respecting each other, and you're able to just talk about what matters. I think that if we can all be a bit more sort of straightforward about things as a society, a lot of good can actually come out of it. So part of that is just about not being scared of death as a topic. It's something that will happen to us all at some point, but there's no reason why, with a bit of campaigning and a good change in the law, why it's anything to be scared of. So I hope that you'll all join us in trying to achieve that.